Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best new Trouble Familiar build for Vex in Borderlands 4. Now, Trouble actually got quite a nice buff, and I'll be showing you how to make a very powerful build. This is in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, but I'll be explaining this from the start of the game because you can use this all the way through, and I find that Trouble actually does a pretty good job of drawing aggro off of yourself. But with this, we're also going to have quite a bit of lifesteal, so we're pretty much invincible. We got a lot of different damage output, and yeah. With the buff to Trouble, now you can actually do some pretty comparable damage while still dipping into some of the other skill trees that overall buff up the weapon damage that you'll be dealing. And I'll be showing you all the best gear, weapons, and everything to give yourself a very powerful familiar build in Borderlands 4. It's also quite a versatile build because there's so many different weapons that work well here. Now, you can build around elemental or kinetic. I would actually prefer to have more kinetic, but the nice thing with this is you can always just switch to kinetic whenever you need more lifesteal, and then use elemental for the rest. For an overview of the build, we do want to get down to the unsealed, which lets Trouble mark enemies, which will make them take additional gun damage, 50% extra damage, which is actually pretty crazy. This enables some of our more powerful abilities from some of the other skill trees to actually do crazy amounts of damage, and this will also give health regeneration and extra damage onto your phase familiar, and whenever you activate your skill, these effects are doubled, so you can actually get some pretty respectable damage, and there were some pretty big buffs to some of the other skills on this tree, which makes it worth taking now. We're also going to have pretty much near infinite uptime between some of the different abilities that we'll be taking, and Beast Mode is really good. For 10 seconds, this makes Trouble immune to all damage. This is a 25-second cooldown, and we can get it back pretty quickly with some of these abilities here, and what's nice about this is it'll make give you 30% extra damage on Trouble, which is also buffed up with the unsealed there. So this actually causes some pretty crazy synergies. And I really like the green skill tree here. These three is some of the best early game skill tree. Like for 15 points, you can become pretty much immortal with this build. So it's really powerful. And I like to have a split between some different kinetic weapons, and the Rainbow Vomit lets you do 3 different types of elemental damage while still getting lifesteal because it is a kinetic based damage. And different sniper rifles and things like the Wombo combo work well here, but I'll cover all this in a future section. So to start fresh from level 0, I really like the enchantment here, which whenever you're in your actions, this only activates when you turn Trouble into Big Trouble, but this will give you an extra 37.5% damage. This is actually a huge boost to kinetic damage. This is only applicable if you're going to use kinetic-based weapons, but also going with the Grave Sustenance is nice because this will give us our action skill back. But the best skill tree is actually to go with Hasty Fiends. Now, the reason for this is 20% damage reduction is actually huge. 20% is massive. This is basically giving you 20% more health and more shields. On top of this, 15% movement speed is huge. Movement speed is something you don't find often in games, but it's extremely powerful. We'll then put our next 2 points into Grave Sustenance. They are giving us our missing action skill duration on a kill, which we're going to get our action skill back pretty quickly with this. And in combination with this, from those 5 through 10, we're going to take 3 points into Grave Command. So whenever we get a kill skill, we restore a portion of Trouble's command skill cooldown, which is amazing. That's all we needed from this. But even better, it gives us respawn cooldown too. So if Trouble goes down, it's impossible to have 100% uptime on Trouble, but we're going to obviously try the best. This will give us 24% cooldown whenever we get a kill. So we can honestly get it back pretty quickly just by taking out a couple trash mobs. Now, I'd actually recommend taking the next couple points here. It is nice to get Overshield, but we have better ways of getting Overshield, which you'll see. And this will give us increased maximum health capacity, which can be nice, but I do think that there is a little bit of a better option with going down and taking this here to give ourselves that action cooldown back. Now, you can go with the Claw and Bang, because this actually does give us quite a big boost. It boosts our Ordnance damage, which is fine. The big thing is the melee damage actually got a big buff in our last patch that we got. So we now get a 40% boost in melee damage, which is applied to both us and onto our minion, which is its main damage. It does melee damage. So this is just a flat out 40% boost to Trouble's damage, making it much more respectable. I'm glad they gave us that change there. The other abilities are nice, like getting increased kill skill efficiency. Doesn't actually apply much here. Getting health regeneration when we have Overshield doesn't matter because we're going to have crazy life regeneration either way. And this gets critical hit damage, which could be good, but I think getting the extra melee damage on not only us, but our minion here is great. Now, this takes us to our best augment with Beast Mode. Early game, you can use the Blink Strike, and even Violent Outburst is nice to give you health back, but our best augment will be Beast Mode, because whenever we apply this, 10 seconds of immunity, he gets 30% extra damage and movement speed, so Trouble will actually get to enemies a lot quicker utilizing this. This is just a really good ability. Now, the next one, we don't want to go with the Shocking Attunement here because we're not going to be using shock-based weapons often. If you really like shock weapons, take this, but I think this is better. Kill skill. Vex's minion gains bonus shock damage. So this is good for one reason. Shields are very common in Borderlands 4, and sometimes not having an answer to shields is kind of annoying. But this will at least give 40% extra damage per stack. You can get 3 stacks, This gives actually crazy bonus damage. The Grave Current is a very good ability here. 40% per stack is 120% extra damage as shock damage. This is huge, really useful. And then we can actually, I have this from a class mod, which gives us extra lifesteal and minions lifesteal for duration. So after getting a kill, you can make it so that trouble lasts a little bit longer. You can go all the way in on this. This with a class mod will give 12% per stack. So we get 3 stacks. And our minion lifesteal actually gets pretty high lifesteal as well. But we can also easy enough get this from our class mods. We don't need to take it. I really actually like the dead wire here. This is an interesting one. It does have a cooldown of 2 seconds, but whenever Vex deals gun damage, there's a chance to spawn a spark remnant that will seek out nearby enemies and explode, dealing shock minion damage to nearby enemies. It does plus 80% of your gun damage dealt. Cooldown of 2 seconds, though, there's only a 10% chance. I like to take at least 1 stack in this. You can go all the way in because that can give you a huge 400% boost to your damage. But just the big thing is it only has a 2-second cooldown, whereas some of these other abilities are actually a little bit better. And in particular, Infusion, I like as well. So whenever we use a Repkit, our minions and ourselves gain a bonus damage with guns and melee damage. So this is an extra 40% damage for 15 seconds after using a Repkit. The bonus elemental damage type is based on our current attunement, so that's something to keep in mind. But that can be really nice, especially with the triple bypass. My personal preference, though, is I like 1 stack of Deadwire and then putting 4 stacks into our Grave Thirst here, because this gives us 10.5 essentially 30% lifesteal on a kill, because we can get 3 stacks of this, and then our minion has 21% lifesteal, and I think that that's more than enough. You could put some more points into Deadwire if you wanted a little bit less here, but with this, at least gives Trouble the ability to sustain himself really well. And then we're going to take the Unsealed. This is our Capstone. This is really good. Trouble marks enemies. You'll see that little purple swiggly there, causing them to take increased gun damage from Vex. And whenever a marked creature is killed, they gain the seal Unsealed there, which gives health regeneration, which we have from other sources as well, and increased damage. While Phase Familiar is active, Unsealed effects are doubled. So you can actually double up the overall health regeneration by activating our action skill. And then whenever we have our command skill up, gets immunities. This becomes pretty crazy. Now the Storm Blessed is not that based or good, so we were not going to select that. It does give you extra shock damage. If you're going around a shock build, take it, but otherwise I don't think it's that good. And at this point, I actually think the best way to go is to go with the Leeching Attunement here. So this is taking us up to levels 30 and into 40. This will give us additional lifesteal and kinetic. This is really good. Kinetic-based guns are some of the best in the game too. And this also gives us increased reload speed, which is great too. These effects are good for 6 seconds, so you can swap to a shock-based weapon and keep your lifesteal. We'll then go ahead here with gun and skill critical hits have a chance to apply bleed, causing kinetic damage effect over time for a duration. This was actually just changed with the recent patch, and they are going to be changing it back to work a little bit more effectively. So you may notice the build doesn't do it still does actually absurd amounts of damage, but they are working on a fix to make Bloodletter work a little bit better again. And then we can go down here and take the material components. This will give us increased kinetic damage. 35% bonus kinetic damage is nuts. And then the status effect damage is increased by 20%. That's our bleed there. There are other points in the skill tree that we could take, but I do think it's actually good just to leave it at that and then go back into this skill tree, because there are some really good abilities here. So this one can give us critical hit chance against any part of the enemies. So you can use Trouble and they'll just critically hit 20% of the time, which is kind of nice. And then we can go down here to take the Reawakening. Whenever Vex or her minions critically hit, there's a chance to restore action skill cooldown, 2 seconds of cooldown, and this gives 4 seconds of cooldown with a 2-second cooldown of applying again. If you're going with an elemental build, you can go the elemental essence. I just think that this is better because this will now make a 20% chance of our minion being able to critically hit, which is nice. And then also this takes us down here to some other great abilities like this one here, which will give you increased critical hit damage on targets with less than 66.6% of their health, which is pretty good. This one is a kill skill, which will gain increased damage, but you also take more damage. This is nice, but I dodge often. I don't know about you, but this can give you a good boost of damage if you're not dodging, because it loses the stacks when you dodge. And then the Reawakening being my personal preference here. You don't have to go with the highest option because it only has a cooldown of 2 seconds. So if you have a fast firing gun, it's actually probably better to take 2 of those and then put 2 points in this to increase your critical hit damage. But we can just go the full way there. Giving 4 seconds of action skill cooldown restored on a critical hit is really nice. This lets us actually use this quite frequently. So all these things together actually make for a very powerful build. And coming into the class mod, which is a very important part of this, there is one for the minions here, but I actually think this one ends up being better. So when Vex has maximum health, her lifesteal partially applies to shields. We have lots of lifesteal on this build, and the rolls that you can get for the skills that you get upgraded from this are actually really nice. This also gives an additional 10% lifesteal and additional shotgun damage, because one of the best guns in the game is a shotgun, and there's actually 2 really good shotguns here, Hot Slugger and Rainbow Vomit. We'll get to that in a moment, though. There are some other ones here that, depending on the rolls, you can get some pretty nice skill boosts. There are other ones here which will actually give you the ability to get Bloodshot on your sniper rifle, the Undead Eye, because this one actually works really well too. This one also gives a 40% boost of kinetic damage and a 45% sniper rifle damage. So this with a sniper rifle is actually crazy. This is one of the best class mods in the entire game. But there's also options of going with ones that are going to give you and your minions increased damage dealt for each attunement skill. This ends up not being that great because you do have to swap your weapons pretty frequently. And yeah, I do think the absolute best is to go with the Teen Witch here, giving you lifesteal onto your shields and your overshield makes us pretty much immortal, especially with Trouble taking all the aggro. We never go down with this build. We also then are going to go with the Onion Shield. I like the Onion Shield in particular because you get 2 seconds of immunity whenever an armor section breaks. There's 4 sections. That's 8 total seconds of immunity. That's 8 seconds that's buying you time for Trouble to come back and then take damage for you. And also giving you time to be able to get lifesteal back. So it is actually pretty absurd amount of damage with these 2 in particular. And this one also will spawn missiles whenever we break an armor segment and get a boost to movement speed. And then I also have this one here. This enhancement is crazy because whenever we get a critical hit, we get increased bonus damage, and this will stack up. And guns with Jacob's License property have a 40% chance of ricochet non-critical hits. There's also some other great ones here, like this one will, this one gives increased sniper magazine size. Shotgun damage is nice too, because I'm going full in on the shotguns here. So these both boost up our shotguns. This also applies to the bod. So the bod is actually really good with some of these other ones. I also like the ones that increase the amount of ricochets that you can get. That's a really powerful ability. Now, there's lots of great grenades. Waterfall, the Slippy, which does we got boosted melee damage, so this one can actually apply pretty good amounts of damage. The Buoy, even going with the Streamer, some of the heavier ordnances are nice. The critical hit ring or knife is just really good since we do have skills that whenever we critically hit enemies, we get our action skill cooldown back. So this can be a kind of panic button. You don't have to use a critical hit knife, just going to put that out there. It's not necessary for this build. It is really powerful. Slippery or the Slippy and any of the grenades, the Waterfall or whatever grenade you prefer works great here. And the triple bypass. Now, the reason I want to mention this one is there is an ability that we could take that procs off of our Repkit here, which is really nice. So whenever we use a Repkit, we get additional damage up at 40% extra damage. That can be pretty nice. We're going more of an elemental build, but for this one, we're still going to use it because this will give us overshield too, which is nice. But the big thing for using the triple bypass, there's ones that will give you actually extra damage. This one gives increased healing received, which could be lifesteal, which is actually kind of nice. There's other triple bypass that give you 200% bonus damage on your shots, which are great. But this is due to the specialization now with caffeine, giving you 25% of your action skill cooldown back whenever we use a Repkit. So this actually pairs together very well with that, giving us our action skill cooldown back quickly. Now for the weapons, I'm a huge fan of Stray, especially if we can get a Jacob's License accessory on it. This will critically hit. Stray just auto aims, and it also has 2 bullets that home in on the nearest target, so this is really good. We also got the Wombo combo. If you're going against vile enemies, this will break the crystals off them so much easier, so this is a really good choice. I also like the radiation one because it has a big explosion that it does as well, so it's actually pretty good damage. Hot Slugger, obviously one of the best guns in the entire game, getting plus 90% damage whenever you take out enemies, and it'll also ricochet. I also like going with a Rainbow Vomit with the critical hits will ricochet as well, because this will deal corrosive, incendiary, and shock damage on it. It also has a knife alt fire, which is really good too. Now, some other weapons that work. Katagawa's Revenge is always going to be good on any build. The lightning damage from that is crazy. The Unseen Truck with the Jacob's properties can work pretty well. I also like, since we got Overshield, the Oh My God works really well, because whenever we have an energy shield active, we get additional damage, and does not deplete the gun, so you can actually get some pretty absurd damage out with the Oh My God. And then also on top of this, I like anything with a Jacob's License accessory. Big fan of Plasma Coil as well. Great 8-round burst, huge damage. You could also go with the Hellfire, which is more fire damage focused. There's also some shotguns that'll chain around to multiple enemies, so those can be good too, like the Kickballer with a Jacob's License property. Damage is absurd. I also enjoy TK's Wave because this is a critical hit will chain around to multiple enemies, and it's kinetic-based damage always. There's some good purple shotguns too, like the Dullahan here was crazy under barrel ability. There's some pretty good pistols like the I guess the Golden God shotgun, but then also going into the Lucky Clover pistol can be pretty effective as well. And also, I just want to give an honorable mention to the Oscar Mike because the Space Laser is kinetic damage and does absurd amounts of damage. As for specializations, there's some really good ones here. I like the best defense, so this will give us increased damage dealt by 30% whenever we have full health. We got Life Steal, we got Trouble to hold aggro. This 30% damage is going to be active pretty much always. And it's also applied to shield. When we have Overshield, we have this easily. Now with Caffeine, as mentioned, is extremely good because every time we use a triple bypass, we get 25% of our action skill cooldown back, and then 75% for 3 of those. Insane. And then we also get the Bullet Train here, which will allow us to hip fire when sprinting, and we also get 50% extra damage while moving. We're going to be moving often because Trouble is good for holding aggro, but we can just run around taking out enemies. And really this will give us 50% extra damage. This is great on a fast firing gun, but really any gun, because every time you shoot a bullet, it does 1% more damage each time. 50 stacks, 50% extra damage. It's great. You could also go with the Hone Mind, giving us our action skill critical hit, or boosting our critical hit from gun damage with I Am a Gun. This will apply whenever Trouble is active and the skill is active. They're good, but I do think it's better to go with these other options. And if you can get the high caliber to pierce enemies, 3 of those would be great. And Deadeye is a good alternative. You get 3 of these with 2 of that one. That's good too. I guess one last gun to mention is the GMR is actually a really good gun. This is a Jacob License accessory. But whenever you use this gun, you automatically fire it. So it's really good. All right, so this is in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, and we got that extra shock damage there. The thing is, we got our Phase Familiar here, which we can send out there, and then he's going to do a ton of damage. Mark the target there, so we do 50% extra damage to this target. It's great when he marks a boss, because that's just a huge boost to your overall damage. And yeah, you can just pick away with him there. Whenever you use your action skill, press and hold F, and that'll give him the immunity to all damage, so now he attacks even quicker, deals more damage, and he's immune to everything. And he's taking shots for us really well. We've had pretty much our overshield the entire time there. Not really using any cheesy abilities here. I'm just firing away with my gun. Not really doing too crazy damage, but that's fine because the Trouble is holding aggro for us. If we really want to do crazy damage, then you throw down your critical hit knife, and then it accelerates the damage that we're going to be dealing quite a bit there, and you can take him down just like that. Our shield also has a 13k capacity, but we got that overshield that takes it up to 9,000. And another nice thing about our shield is that we got that oh my god here, which lets us use this attack here without draining our shield, or without draining our magazine as quickly. So we can actually do some pretty respectable damage against shields with that. I like to use the Hot Slugger though. The damage from that is crazy. And then we got our action skill there. I'll use the special ability on our cat, which lets him attack even quicker. And boom, then we're taking this boss out so much faster. So yeah, you can see it does actually pretty good damage. We keep our overshield pretty much infinitely since our Trouble is going to be holding aggro for us. So this can be pretty crazy pretty quickly. And it's also really fun to use because whenever you got different elemental damages, Trouble does change his type. I do think Kinetic ends up being the absolute best here because the damage from this and the lifesteal just means that we never go down. The damage is going to be, I mean, an Eldritch Blast build will outdamage this with the Witchy Trigger Finger, but I do have a build on that also on my channel. But this is for those that want to use Trouble, and he's actually really good now in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day. We'll catch y'all in the next video.